Okay, final preparations for the recording of Solo Q episode 38. Microphone, wired and ready. Audition software, running. Script supervisor, we are go. News desk, we are go on news, boss. Background music, ready to lay in. Sound effects. House band.
We are Ogre.
Solo Q social media team. We're maybe on Threads, but otherwise go. Solo crew on Patreon.
Go!
Lovely and supportive wife.
You go, honey.
World of Warcraft playtime coordination. We're a go flight. Alt Army Chief of Staff.
Yes, sir. The Alt Army is a go.
Ambassador to the Alliance.
For the Alliance!
Envoy to the Horde.
For the Horde!
Solo Together Guildmaster.
We are a go.
Random Kultiran ship captain in the rescue vessel.
Ahoy!
Drink of the month barkeep.
Yeah, what can I get you?
Old fashioned with Maine maple syrup boiled only last week for the host.
On the rocks and ready.
Editing.
Go.
Mixing.
Go!
Video.
What? We do video? No.
Production.
Go.
Host. Host?
Yeah. Let's light this candle.
All systems go. Stand by. Cue Ogre in 3, 2, 1, and... You have entered the Solo Queue, a monthly podcast about adventuring alone in the world of Warcraft. Thanks for joining me. My name is Dave Gagne. Welcome to episode 38 of Solo Q, a World of Warcraft podcast where you get to listen to me talk about how I play World of Warcraft. Often in a solo way, often in a casual way, but often also at the same time of being casual, being quite obsessed with this world of Azeroth and its surrounding universe and all of the characters and all of the story. And what more exciting time is there in our WoW life cycle than those opening weeks of an expansion? In episode 38, we chatted with Gershom. Thank you, Gershom, for joining me last episode for our second annual State of the World of Warcraft convention, interview, discussion. I don't know. It's great to have her back on the show. This week, this episode, back to being alone, but don't feel bad for me. I'm okay with that. And we're going to be able to sort of get further into what I'm thinking of the state of Azeroth and World of Warcraft and how I'm feeling about the game, where I've gotten in the game. We're going to walk through a lot of midnight content. This is going to be very exciting. Give you my feedback on that. And we're going to talk about what you do when you don't have enough time to play. And I continue to make peace with that, continuing to seek acceptance for that. You know, and it feels kind of doubly bad. You know, I want to be in the game. And at the same time, I kind of double that up by saying, well, I need to be in the game so that I can come sit at this microphone and talk to you about it. And I don't, I can't play for an hour a week and expect to do a podcast. So a lot going on, a lot of being pulled in a couple different directions. And you might be asking, well, with all this midnight excitement and content and revamps, what are we doing in old Silver Moon City right now? Well, add to the want to be in the game and then also need to be in the game to make a podcast. I'm also, I can't say I'm a contrarian, but yes, I can. Yes, I can. But this isn't entirely me being a contrarian, but I am in old Silver Moon because, in my limited playtime, I even managed to convince myself to step away from the midnight content, to come back here in Old Silveroon to look around, to do a little bit of testing that we'll talk about probably in the next episode. You know, a little hint of a hint. Hey, there is no more exciting time. Like I said, the start of an expansion. I think a lot of people who are pretty hardcore are through the leveling experience at least once. I know I finally am through up to 90. I'm not quite done the campaign questing at the end, but I am through to 90. So, you know, that big solo start where everyone seems to, you know, most people at least do that 80 to 90 grind solo. You know, you're playing alone. And so, yeah, what I have to say is vaguely applicable to everybody. But we're turning that page, right? There's a lot of endgame content coming out. So people are moving in all sorts of different directions. Well, in this episode, yeah, I'm going to give you my first impressions about Midnight for sure. We're going to talk a little bit about class identity, highlight one particular friend in the WoW podcasting space for a new direction that they've been moving in. We're going to grab a drink. We're going to dive into my experience with Midnight, all those different zones. But first, we should check in with the Solo Q news desk.
You bring news?
What news from the mainland?
Have you any news?
Let's get a little bit of Solo Q socials news out of the way. First up, the Horde neighborhood. Yes, the Desolate Collective. I finally figured out how to add members beyond those on the original charter. So not exactly great for maintaining momentum, but yeah, the key was, just as I suspected, that I had to strip down to no add-ons. I don't know which add-on was giving me the business. I didn't feel like solving that, but one of them, probably Elv, but I don't really know. One of them was screwing it all up. And now when I do that, the invite button on the roster actually functions properly. So the test was Gershom after our interview, and she is the first new member of the Desolate Collective. So if you are, if you're interested in moving a Horde house to our little Horde neighborhood here in the Solo Q community, feel free, reach out in-game or out of game, what have you, and we will work on getting you an invite. The Solo Together Guild, the Alliance side guild for this little Solo Q community, it is strong and growing. It's very exciting. If you are looking for it, you want to find a way to join, you can find it in the Alliance Guild Finder. You will not find it in the Horde Guild Finder because that's just the way things work, but it is open to characters of both factions. It's just a little bit of extra work to figure it out on the Horde side. We do have an Alliance side guild neighborhood as well that is also thriving. I think it was a new member just in the past couple of days, so that's exciting. If you want to join, just reach out. We will get you an invite, either Horde or Alliance. You can reach out in-game, out-of-game, what have you. It is a lot of cool people, many different backgrounds, just kind of hanging out, checking in on each other. It's all very casual. Occasionally, people even group up for some activities here and there. Me, I just tend to sit back and watch and chime into the conversation now and then. So it's very exciting. And I have to say, with some genuine surprise, the bulk of the social interaction in this little Solo Q community has landed in the Solo Q Discord channel. It is what I described above, but even more of it. And I think I finally, after these last number of weeks, I finally see the point of Discord. It really is a social media platform where you only have to interact with the people you choose to interact with, especially if you own the Discord server. It's really exciting. My feed is not clogged with the algorithm suggesting other servers I might like or other people I should go interact with. And that's kind of refreshing, I gotta say. And now that, hey, good people are populating the conversations in the various categories of the solo queue server, it's a place where I want to be. I kind of like it. Interaction on my own terms. And it is a great way to jump into the growing community around this show. So if you're looking for a place to kind of, again, find good people, hang out, connect, like I said, all different backgrounds. It's been really interesting. Get to know some people through this. There's a new Discord link. I think I mentioned it in the last episode. Essentially, the Discord invite code is capital N 86, lowercase f, lowercase h, capital R, lowercase k, capital D, lowercase e, lowercase m. How's that? Or you could check the show notes. There's going to be a link right in there. So, hey, if you're a good person, if you want to hang out, come on over. On Discord, I am at Sweeper Dave, all one word. And, of course, you can find me at Solo Q Wow on everything else out there. Okay, that's enough about the Inside the Queue news, and I promise that this stuff is not going to be in every episode going forward, but it's really exciting to get this stuff off the ground. That said, I do have one more bit of podcast news, but it's just not related to the social stuff. Okay, the Grand Tour, the big project that I announced, the big ongoing dive into the end game, into the raids of, the raids and the dungeons of all the different expansions. You know, we're way behind schedule. As I said, life finds a way into a lot of my plans, and for sure I have put the Grand Tour on hold. It will return. I think I quietly joked a while back of it'll probably take 2 years, and that's seeming very likely right now. I am excited to get back to it. Between time and, well, there's midnight to play. Yeah, I haven't really been back into Grand Tour mode, so we will get there, I promise. I'm sure you're not holding your breath, but you know, it will come back. Also quietly on hold, though, and this is a little bit of a bummer to me, is this year's 64 competitor single elimination tournament among Warcraft characters that I certainly cannot refer to as March Madness due to trademark and copyright law. But yeah, that one's going to take a year off. We'll reset things, get a little bit more time. Hey, but in a year from now, we'll be, believe it or not, kind of heading towards the end of this expansion. I don't know if we'll be in the final patch or the final season, but in a year, you know, we're going to be eyes ahead for the Last Titan. So there's going to be some downtime. I think next year, 2027, I can't believe I'm saying that. That seems like it's going to be a good time to come back to that tournament. A tournament of characters, we'll call it. I don't know what we'll call it. We're going to keep not calling it the Madness of March because that's illegal. Okay, into news that has nothing to do with me. Hey, if you've been on the launcher, you know that Rufus, the construction dog, is now available for purchase. This is the pet that 100% of the proceeds, so 100% of your $20 here in the US, is going to get donated back to Habitat for Humanity. So that is very exciting. I know I've talked about this before. A great charity, a great addition to you in the game. Rufus is super cute, and the items that come along, both for decor and it's just fantastic. So get in there, get the launcher. If you've got that $20 that you can spare, send it in. The mini Warhammer in his mouth, like construction hammer thing, is just amazing. So there you go. Rufus is ready for you to be adopted. Rufus is ready to be adopted by you. Also in the launcher recently, WoW and the musician Aurora put out a kind of a music video, really a marketing video, because, you know, it ends with a, hey, play Midnight Now. The song is fantastic. It is called A Place to Call Home. And the visuals that go with it, well, and the word I guess the wording too, but the visuals are fantastic because they basically are a march through the huge events of Warcraft, like those pillar moments, basically through the timeline, which means it kind of wanders through expansion by expansion. The art style is lovely. The singing is fantastic. There's just one problem with this video, and it's a huge problem. And it's not with the video. It's not with the singing. It's none of that. The problem is it is an absolute tease to all of us who want more WoW content, as in like live action series or animated series or any of these things. It's like, hey, let's keep showing you what we can do and let's keep getting you excited about, the possibilities. The video features 3 adventurers and they literally start out in Classic, and it's, a couple pillar alliance races for sure. But then those 3 are adventuring through all of these great moments in Warcraft history. Most of them, of course, are big raid bosses. You've been there, we've all been there doing those things. Wouldn't it be really cool? Wouldn't it be really cool to see this show up somewhere on your Netflix or on your streaming or anywhere? It's such a tease. It is such a tease. So this great string of videos that we've had of cinematics and animated things and music, it's been really, really nice, and especially all these different art styles that we've seen. But right, we all want more, right? Can we sign a petition? Do they need a GoFundMe? Do we what is the way to unlock the WoW content, like show content? Back into the game itself. Season 1, it is open, it is running. We are now well past the leveling phase and into all that end game content opening. A lot of Season 1 is now open with the arrival of Mythic Plus Keystones last week and the Dark Way Delve. For raids, the Void Spire and the Dream Rift both opened on Mythic difficulty. All other difficulties of Dream Rift, the one raid boss, opened the previous week. For the Void Spire, LFR Wing 2 is available, as is the, I will say, as yet unimproved story mode version. We'll talk about that later. I do not see a story mode version for the Dream Rift, which of course is a one boss raid, so I guess I guess I'll do whatever version there is. I was kind of holding out hope, not gonna lie. Coming this week with the March 31st reset is Wing 3 of LFR, so the final wing for the Void Spire, along with the normal, heroic, and mythic versions of the third raid of Midnight, March on Quell Danas. This is a 2-boss raid. The Raid Finder, or LFR, or whatever it is, and the story mode versions will arrive next week on April 7th. And the final delve, the Parhelion Plaza, opens this week as well, rounding out the full 10 delve roster for our first season of Midnight. And don't forget that the new nemesis for this season is Nullius. And of course, Valera Sanguinar is here to help you through all of those delves. By now, you've either figured out that you miss Bran or you are glad to have him in the rearview mirror. But Valera is here to stay as our probably for the whole expansion, because they kind of changed gears and made it an expansion-long decision as to who our follower was. So hopefully you're okay with Valera at this point. I am. That said, I have not done enough delves. Okay, and since those 2 raids have opened up to Mythic difficulty, that means there is a Race to World First going on right now. As I like to say, hey, if you're coming to the Solo Queue news desk to get updates on Race to World First, that makes about as much sense as heading to the Department of Motor Vehicles to get the latest results for Formula One races. But hey, here you go. Here's your Solo Queue Race to World First coverage. The way the race has been formatted this year, I guess by the teams that do it, because this is not a Blizzard-sponsored event, it includes 9 bosses from all 3 of these raids. And, of course, the final 2 bosses take the stage on Tuesday with the launch of the March of Quell Danas. So at the time of this recording, there are 3 very familiar guild names that have cleared the first 2 raids and are awaiting the penultimate boss. They can't go until reset when the new raid shows up. And of course, that is Liquid, Echo, and Method. 6 more teams are trying to take down the final boss, which is identified as the Crown of the Cosmos. If you check the adventure guide, I have a feeling everyone calls it something different. I'm going to hold off on describing that boss any further for the moment. Don't need to give you any spoilers. So there you go. Hey, go Mythic Raider teams. In other news, other things you can get, a spring sale on Battle.net is up and running for, pets, mounts, packs of things, and along with game services. So if you've been waiting to transfer or name change or any of those things, those are a little bit cheaper. So check the store. The current Twitch drop is the Cuddly Void Gurgle, and there's been a whole series of Twitch drops lately. This one will run until April 23rd, so, as per usual, watch 4 hours of WoW on Twitch, and you will get in your little Twitch inventory thing, which will find its way magically over to your Battle.net launcher, and into the game, you will get the Cuddly Void Gurgle. Last big thing in the news is just a quick preview of what is coming in 12.0.5. This has been on my script for a couple different episodes now, and I haven't gotten to any of it yet. So I'm just going to hit the highlights. We don't have a release date, but, it says spring, which is obvious because we're already in spring. An 8-week cycle, which, in the recent past has been what Blizzard has been working towards. That would put us at April 28th. So, at this moment, we're about halfway through that. So there's still plenty of time before this mid-season patch. The Void Forge is essentially a gear update system. Part that I don't know about is you can start to work on that now, apparently. And I don't know much about that because I don't know that I'm going to be doing a ton of this. So the reason I'll say this is the nebulous void cores are essentially the thing that you're going to have to collect and that you're going to need to use in the Void Forge to upgrade your gear. And that item, those void cores, are going to come from Mythic Plus dungeons, from raids, from bountiful delves, and from nightmare level prey hunts. So you got to be on that top nightmare level. I mean, at the moment where I am, I seem likely only to tackle bountiful delves. So I'm not. There's a lot of other things in my path to do before I even think about the Void Forge. But apparently, you can get that construction started now, and you can be ready for when the patch releases, likely in about a month. So if you're into that, go find that system, go get some info. Also in 12.0.5, there are a lot more open world activities that are going to launch. And that starts with the Void Assaults in both Eversong Woods and Zulaman. The Void Assaults themselves kind of have 2 parts, 2 different activities. The Void Strikes, which are kind of ongoing all the time, and Void Incursions. And Void Incursions will occur once enough strikes have been done. These activities are going to help fill out your world content slot in the Great Vault, so you're going to get some credit there for it if you want to take a break from delves or from the prey system. And you can earn the currency Field Accolades, and that's a new currency for the patch for 12.0.5. They can be used to purchase champion and heroic level gear and other cosmetic rewards. So, hey, midway through the season or so, chance to a different way to gear up your characters, to catch up some alt characters, what have you. So check out the Field Accolades. One way to get them from these Void Assaults. Another way to get them is Ritual Sites. This was interesting. I kind of either missed this or it wasn't out before by reading about it today. The Ritual Sites is a tiered scenario that can be tackled either solo or with a party up to 5 players. Kind of like all that Void Core, Void Strike, Void stuff. These will also be in Eversong Woods and in Zulamon. I'm not sure if this is kind of like a delve in that it scales to the size of your group, or if it's filling you like a follower dungeon, filling you with the rest of the characters you need. I'm not sure which direction that goes in yet. We don't know a lot about the Ritual Sites. Or at least I don't. I'm not on the PTR, so. You can also earn field accolades here. I should call those accolades. Did I say accolades? Accolades? Okay, this is a weird deep dive tangent. There was a video game, a football game. I'm not even, 4th and Inches that I used to play on my Commodore 64. And one of the teams was called the Accolades because the software company that made it was Accolade. And so the Accolades were one of the football teams in that game. And that, I think, is where my confusion is coming from. And that is a deep, deep cut. Holy cow. You can earn field accolades, not by watching the Accolades in their new season, but you can earn those from a lot of different activities here in the Void stuff, but also in the Ritual Sites. There we go. We're getting back on track. You can also progress your renown with the factions in each of these zones. So this sounds like some good new activities, good new ways to progress kind of in the existing gear and reputation systems that are in the game. But, you know, if you're getting tired of some stuff, if you've checked out of dungeons or delves by the midway point, here's a couple of different activities that are going to keep you pushing forward, keep you acquiring gear, upgrading gear, what have you. So there you go. And when you add the underwater fishing activity called Abyss Anglers, it really does. Seems like there's a lot of ways to kind of freshen up your routine as we hit the midway point of season 1. And that, my friends, is all the news I have for you today. Okay, our first real segment of the show is kind of an interesting thing. It is based off something I heard in another podcast, and I liked what I heard. I was listening to episode 25 of Azeroth Morning Radio. This was a couple of weeks ago. The show came out on March 17th. Sadly, Cash was feeling under the weather, and he was not able to join Jibs on the show, so Jibs was running a one-man podcast. And one of the segments that he got into, he mentioned class identity. And he started with a story of a player by the name of Skull. I believe the full content creator name Skull and Bones, but Skull is a Death Knight content creator and kind of a Death Knight for life. That's how he identified in the game with the Death Knight class. And Jibs took that and kind of ran with it and started talking, got him thinking. And he talked about his passion for paladins and the connections to the class in his own life, how it is a departure from his own real life, but also, what he sees in that class and how it represents him, how it feels good to play, how it connects with him on a very fundamental level. And all of that was really great. Like the description he gave of Skull, the description he gave of his own passion for paladins. And I remember clear as day, I was walking the dog out on a ridge in our woods, and I thought, what a cool idea. You know what? I'm going to take this as a challenge. And so this segment, we're going to call this the Jibs Class Identity Challenge. To do the challenge justice, we need to not be here in Silver Moon City. but we need to hearth to a little place known as Moonglade. So I'm taking Jibbs's description of his passion for a class and accepting it as a challenge, kind of like the Ice Bucket Challenge, but much cleaner and much less cold and much less messy. And yeah, probably for not as good a cause, but whatever. Anyway, it got me thinking. And I thought, what class do I... And I didn't have to think long. I didn't even finish the sentence. I'm like, of course I know the answer. But it's interesting. It did literally get me thinking about, like, why do I identify with that class? And I guess the start of my answer for this is I play all the classes. I play every class. There are some I like more than others, for sure. But I have at least 2 of every single class. I did a recent update to the roster, which I'll mention a little bit later, but there are 2 of everything. And by the accounts played thing, I logged into every character. I got the little accounts played, hey, this is all your time and all the different classes. By far, the 3 classes I've played the most are Paladin, Hunter, and Druid. No doubt. And that kind of tracks with the inventory of characters. I have 6 Paladins, I have 8 Hunters, and I have 10 Druids. I also have 6 Mages, but I don't play them nearly as much. And in some ways, playing all of the classes, or many of the classes, even with some frequency, is in itself a statement of my personality, partly to do with indecisiveness, but also partly just wanting to experience as much of the game as I can in as many different ways as Blizzard wants to give it to me. But for sure, and by far, that class that, not just my favorite class, because that's almost, kind of minimizes it. That class that I identify with, that class where my passion lies, truly is with Druid. And I just made my 10th Druid, Harnier Druid. Of course, I had to have all the Druids. So my 10th Druid on my roster, it is the class that I'm drawn to. It does kind of feel like my personality. It is that chameleon class that can change into a bunch of things. You have all of the different play styles. You can be a tank. You can be a close-up melee. You can be a healer. You can be a ranged DPS. Like, everything is there. You can be a caster. You can be, like I said, kind of claws in, going at it in feral. You can do the tanking as a guardian druid. You can be resto. Like, druid has a little bit of everything, and it can change very quickly. It can blend in. And I feel like sometimes that sort of fits my personality too, of I'm not necessarily the same person everywhere I go, in every situation, and I think that's true of all of us in some ways. But I tend to kind of melt in and blend in as much as I can. Stealth mode. If I had real life stealth mode, holy cow. Yeah, I'd be all over that. There are places where I just want to kind of move through and not be seen and not necessarily draw attention or whatever. And in the game, I love that. And it fits not only my personality, but my playing ability. If I can stealth past things that are really hard, that's ideal. I like that. And it literally is one of the big reasons I love this class. It matches personality, it matches my needs, it changes forms and utility based on situations. And yeah, I that kind of resonates with me. That ability to shift gears and to be what I need to be at work versus at home versus in the game versus, out in the world. Yeah. Druid is very, of course, connected to nature, we live in the woods. I see more animals than people if I don't go into my neighborhood. The forest is right there. It really does fit kind of the way I think about things. And so, Jibs, thanks for putting that out into the world as just a thought exercise of, hey, why the class you play? How does it resonate with you? And here to say the class of Druid really does resonate with me in so many ways. What's your class? Hey, hop into the Discord, Solo Q Discord. Tell me what your class identity is. Why does it fit? Why do you play what you play? Why do you choose to play what you play? Is it that it fits you? Or is it a reaction, an opposite? Like, oh man, I wish I could be this. But I can be that in the game world. I can be that thing I want to be that maybe it's not possible here, but I can there. All fascinating stuff, all just interesting. And so, Jibs, thanks for putting that challenge out there. Maybe some other people will put their class identities out there. And that's why Moonglade is the perfect place to talk about that. You may not get to Moonglade very often other than for the Lunar Fest. But hey, walking around Moonglade from building to building, what is this we just came across? It looks like a giant board with a bunch of stuff on it. What do they call those? Let's see. Oh, I know.
Hero's Call.
Yes, it is the Hero's Call board. I learned a long time ago to, when doing certain things, you beg forgiveness later rather than ask permission. And in this case, I wasn't going to ask permission to grab that little bit of sound from Azeroth Morning Radio. I decided I would steal it and use it just once. We're co-opting. This is the Heroes Call co-opt segment of Solo Q. And I decided, hey, I need to give a special shout out to somebody. Somebody who has been kind of going above and beyond for the World of Warcraft community, who has just jumped feet first into making, the game better for all of us if we choose to make it more interesting, to bring people together. And I'm going to do this by shouting out the aforementioned Jibs. And not just for the class identity challenge, but here's the deal. A little over 6 months ago, Azeroth Morning Radio, Cash and Jibs, the pair, put out their first episode of their new podcast. And this is the first time that these two longtime content creators have come into the World of Warcraft space. They've been all over the place. If you've heard the show, they've been doing content creation for nigh on 13 years, 14 years, something like that. A long, long time. Longer than I've been playing this game. But they finally brought their talents to World of Warcraft. And the show has been, I think, excellent. I think it's probably taken off like hotcakes, if that's a metaphor. And so for that work, for jumping into the community, for making an excellent podcast, Jibs and Cash, throwing some credit your way, but that's not all Jibs has been up to. And I know if you've heard Azeroth Morning Radio, he's talked about 2025 was kind of a tough year, stuff going on. But you know what? He turned his energy into such an interesting direction. Because Jibs is not just a content producer. It's a number of episodes back on AMR when I remember him announcing that he had, I think it was actually Cash who kind of made the announcement because Jibs did not, but essentially he had made his first add-on. Like, okay, that's that's a thing. Somebody makes add-ons, I suppose. They all seem to have funny names in CurseForge. And so all of a sudden, wow, here's a real life person making add-ons. It was super interesting. And the first add-on was Setlock. And it was fascinating because it was, hey, here's a very specific problem in the game. Not problem with the game necessarily, just a problem in the game. And here I made a solution. And that was when you've got gear in your bag and maybe it has a specific purpose. When you're doing one thing, you're wearing that gear, but when you're doing something else, you're not, and you throw it back in your bag. And we all know as bags, climb in size and you now have 160 some odd horrible slots everywhere. Crazy. It is not hard to accidentally throw things away. And so Setlock was created to prevent you from throwing your gear away accidentally when you hit a vendor. Oh, hey, I'm gonna, go sell all the stuff and make some money back. Yeah, you're not gonna accidentally vendor the gear that you need. That was amazing. I was like, wow, that's super, what a great thought. That first add-on, there were more, was followed by Item Lock. Item Lock essentially does the similar thing, but for other items. So important items that you have, like that random gray thing that you don't want to throw away because it's sentimental. In one of my bags and one of my characters, I have a broom. It is a gray throwaway junk item. And I worked really, really, really hard to not throw it away and eventually get it into that character's bank safely, hopefully. Well, Item Lock will prevent me from throwing that away. And that was followed up. Eventually, he combined these two into Jibbs's Inventory Guardian. And so essentially, both those functionalities combined together. And now you can have Inventory Guardian. In the episode of AMR, when Jibbs mentioned he had made another add-on called Your Pet is Dead, I couldn't open CurseForge fast enough. I remember thinking, oh my God, I need to remember this. And I did and got back to my computer and Your Pet is Dead does exactly what you think it does. When your pet dies, your hunter pet or what have you, it tells you your pet is dead. That's all. It just says it on the screen. This is no Blizzard secret data thing or manipulation of the game code, this, that. Nope. Your pet died. It says your pet died, which in the heat of battle, even in one or two mobs, sometimes you don't necessarily know. And thanks to Jibbs, I regularly know that my pets die because my poor pets do die with some regularity. And now I'm well aware of it. Hopefully, Jibbs is not reporting out these numbers, that there's some data privacy settings that they're not getting reported to the Azerothian Pet Endangerment Society, because I would certainly make their list for sure. It has been super refreshing, especially playing this initial questing run as Beast Mastery Hunter. And like I said, sometimes the action is thick and heavy and you don't necessarily see what's going on. And then, bang, your pet is dead. Like, oh, phew, okay. Sorry, buddy. Well, let's get you resurrected so I can keep living. It's making me appreciate my pets even more, actually, that they die with so much regularity. And they and I have Jibbs to thank for that. And the latest add-on, there is another one, goes in another direction yet again. Azeroth Public Library is a genius add-on. Aleandris of Live Laugh Lore fame, you need to hear this. We've talked about this. Azeroth Public Library is an add-on that will automatically add any lore text that you encounter in the game to a personal library that is built into the app. The description says, quote, when you read books, scrolls, plaques, or other readable lore objects in the world, Azeroth Public Library captures and stores that text so you can revisit it later without needing to return to the original location. Again, there's a specific problem in the game to solve. Blizzard hasn't provided a solution for it. Again, not a criticism. It's a big game. There's a lot of things. But here's a member of the community who said, you know what? We can do something about that. And he did. This is amazing. It is a way to collect outside of the WoW client itself. And that in itself feels like quite a feat. I mean, my goodness. It's a whole new collection, and this time for lore. Way to go, Jibs. Like that is pretty phenomenal. And I have used it a little bit. I have only run into a couple things so far since I've been running the add-on, and it works. Like, oh, this plaque of someone. Burp, there it is. Into the add-on. Yeah, it's not in the collection manager because WoW hasn't adopted it yet, but if they come knocking, Jibs, keep your price high. Come on, make some bank on this. This is an amazing addition to the game. I love it. It certainly pairs well with the recent push by Azeroth Morning Radio to give a description of the lore of the Warcraft universe, a few minutes at a time, each episode. Very cool. So hey, from the greater WoW community and for them, thank you, Jibs, for making WoW more fun, both as a content creator and now as a creator of very cool, functional add-ons. Absolutely amazing. We are all benefiting from your hard work and your passion for the game. So that is why you have made the stolen solo queue, heroes call, board, profile, what have you. We're going to give you a solo queue Citizen of the Year award. Congratulations from the one of us here at Solo Queue.
By the light, I could use another drink.
And by the light, I could use a drink too. Not going to lie. But you know what? Druids are a lot of things, but they're not much big on the partying and the drinking. So we're going to head to a different place to grab a drink. All right. You might have clicked this button in Midnight already to get to the Argentina. Yes, the Argentina, one of the big features of Midnight in the expansion. Essentially a place to hang out, right? This is an arcane creation of a Kirin Tor mage long ago, and even Khadgar isn't sure who did it. But now it seems that he's maintaining it, and he mentions he started coming here during, quote, the difficult days of the expedition to Draenor. I assume he is referring to the content drought of the selfie patch. What do you think? Yeah, this is a tavern. It is a bar. It is a refuge. It is a place to go to hang out. You get here by a portal. It really is not on the map anywhere. So thank goodness, there's a brief little quest line to unlock the Argentina. That happens, after the Erator quest line, I believe. You get to come here. And hey, there are some quests to do, some weeklies, dailies, what have you. There's lots of cool stuff to look at, explore. There's even items to pick up, some items that, Inky Black Potion and some other little doodad utility things that are kind of neat. There are a couple side rooms to check out. There are even some Dalaran refugees, including Ari, who is a friend of Khadgar's. She, you find her in the little library room where Khadgar is doing some researching at a desk. And she seems to be tending that library, but she will tell you she is there trying to recover from the chaos of Dalaran's destruction. And I have no idea if she was there or portaled out before or what have you, but she is appreciative of Khadgar bringing her here away from it all, literally, and she is just trying to, kind of get her mental state back on its own 2 feet. Back in the main tavern area, bartender Bob is behind the bar. But I didn't want to get in between a spirited conversation between Rexar
Let the hunt begin.
and Jen Stormstout.
Sit down. Have a drink.
So I managed to catch the attention of Gwen Armstead.
What can I do for you?
She is the visiting bartender at the moment. She is offering up a selection of drinks from Gilneas, which tells me I don't want to make her angry.
That's enough gabbing for me today.
Both the Earl Greymane and the Hair of the Worgen were tempting drinks due to their names, but instead I grabbed a Gilnean fortified brandy because you know what? Up here in Maine, it is still cold, it is still wintry. Yeah, a little fortified brandy warming the tummy is exactly what I needed here in the Solo Q headquarters. And while I was here in the Argentina, I saw one of my favorite NPCs, one of my favorite people in the game, Thistly Crow, who has infinite energy.
Is there danger?
She is amazing.
I can handle it.
She had a mission for me to grab some vines from the Firelands raid, so, you know.
Mortal insects.
It's kind of neat in the Argentina. You can find people with a quest. You grab their quest, a portal kind of appears like, hey, I'm going to send you to your quest. And she had me return to Mount Hyjal. From there, I kind of scooted downhill over to the Firelands raid. And inside the raid, I had to go and find these various fire somethings. And when I came back, she had for me the Hyjal climbing vine decor item. So a quick little jaunt into the Firelands. You know, it took, I don't know, not 5 minutes. It was a couple minutes. Brief little thing. I think there may be a weekly quest sometimes to go. I guess maybe one of your weekly quests could be the choose one, do something in the Argentina. I hadn't done it before. Kind of fortunately for me, I guess, that they didn't give me that, so I didn't mess that up. But anyway, upon returning, I realized that Thistly was sitting with Zentabra, the troll druid.
Why you be bothering me like this?
And it was upon turning in the quest that I was treated to an absolutely free stay a while and listen. Just automatically launched into it as the two of them discussed fighting Ragnaros and the horrors of fighting Ragnaros and the trauma of all of that, as well as fighting Farak, much later on, of course, and the Druids of the Flame, who worshipped both of those big raid bosses in turn. And it was really interesting to see the effect that all of that had on Zentabra and the very different effect it had on Thistly, who, of course, is eternally optimistic.
I can handle it.
It was great flavor, great story. This is why the Argentina is a good little thing. It's not going to make you defeat a mythic raid boss. It's not going to, jump your IO score. It is depth. It is flavor. It is story. It's callbacks. It's really cool. You got to head to the Argentina every now and then. And on my way out, I kind of foolishly, I think, reached out to pet a sleeping Misha, who Misha is, of course, Rexar's bear companion. Fortunately, she woke gently and she appreciated the attention. And on the mantle, I managed to find Pepe, who promptly, upon me clicking on him, hopped onto my head with his little explorer's hat, looking super cute. He asked me what I had been up to lately, so I might as well let him listen in as I tell you all about it.
And what have you done lately?
I mean, what have any of us done lately, right? It's midnight. Midnight is the thing that we're focused on. So what have I done? Well, I'm going to keep the midnight feedback for our main topic, which is my thoughts on midnight so far. But here, I'm just going to kind of fill you in on a few little things about how things are going, what I've been up to. And the first one, of course, is my roster size. Going into midnight, at 67 characters, 2 slots, set aside for Haranir characters, a male and a female, a body 1 and a body 2 Haranir. So once I unlocked the Haranir, I was very excited to go and, of course, make that 10th druid. A Haranir druid, I have not gotten much. I have gotten into the game briefly. I have not played the Haranir druid yet, so I have no great feedback on that. But that was not a surprise. I've been gearing up for that. I've been waiting. Now, the question was, what am I going to do for my other Haranir? What class should I play? And I thought, well, I have an idea, but nope, I'm going to hold off. You know what? There's no rush. This character is going to level. They're not going to get a boost. The druid got a boost. I had the 80 boost from Midnight, so the druid got the boost. And I thought, I'm just going to focus on playing the game and getting out there, and I'm not going to do these new characters yet. And then, I did. Okay, why don't I do the, it's going to be a level 80, so I might as well do the druid. And I got a name, and I went through the whole thing and the customizations, and that was really cool. There was a lot of customization, but not an evoker level of customization. Which is to say, dear God, I cannot look at another spine thing, whatever speckle pattern on my dragon person. That was an obnoxious amount of customization. I mean, it's good, I guess, but holy cow, I can't handle that much. Haranir did not have too much, and I appreciated that. Felt like the right amount. And then I thought, the druid's done. I should get in there and keep playing. And I think it was late at night. It was something. I was like, I'm not going to, I don't know. Maybe I'm too tired to play or something. But I don't want to go to bed yet. I guess I'll go and make another Haranir character. And as much as I thought, I'm not sure what to play. Maybe I'll even offer a little poll on Discord or ask the people, what should I do? And I thought, no, it's clearly I'm going to do this tonight, so no. Okay, well, what classes could it be? And I sort of off the top just said, nothing else makes sense except for things that are connected to nature. These people are underground for ever and ever and ever, whatever. Obviously, they can't be Death Knights. That's not one of the options. But how are they going to be a monk? Like, I could craft a story that, he comes up to the surface and really likes monkey things. Not monkey things, but you know what I mean. Monk-ish things. No, to me, in my head, the only things that made sense were hunter, warrior, because, warriors, and shaman. Like, shaman are connected to the elements, to the earth, that made sense. So it was down to those three. And I did this little song and dance for I don't know how long, not that long, before I went and made a hunter, because I was always going to make a hunter. That's what I wrote down when they first announced that the character limit was expanded to 70 and the Haranir were there. And I was like, okay, now that I know a little bit about them, yes, druid, obviously. And it's got to be a hunter, right? I don't know how many months ago that was. And so, I pretended to come to a decision, but no, it was kind of always going to be a hunter. So I'm excited to get to those characters at some point. I got to figure out which zone the Haranir is going to run around in to get Lore Master, to get the Sojourner questing. So I'm going to get that level 80 out into the world soon, but not yet. And so, just like that, I am one roster space left on my retail account. 69 characters. I did something very interesting for the first time. I have never used a Horde character as my initial, first run through the expansion, my lead leveler. But it felt like I needed to be in there on a Blood Elf. Like we're in Silvermoon, we're in Eversong, we're in these places, and I have such a love of those 3 zones. Silvermoon, the city, Eversong Woods, the Ghostlands. They are absolutely burned into my memory. And it turns out I have a Blood Elf hunter by the name of Actindil. He is, as far as I can tell, with the information I have available to me 11 years later, 12 years later, almost 12 years later, he is my oldest existing character. And he might possibly be my very first character. I'm not sure. I cannot confirm that. I don't think there's any way for me to confirm that. Yeah, I don't think there's any way. I'll check my list of retired characters, but I don't think anybody is older than Actindil. And so I'm playing one of my OG characters in this land that should be so familiar, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. So it's really exciting. The first time I've ever been, like I said, doing Horde things, Horde character through the terrain. The first time I've started an expansion not on my druid. And that's fascinating too. She is waiting in the wings. She is ready to jump into Silvermoon, and I think she's going to do the Sojourner questing for Zulaman. I think that's how I have that mapped out. On that Beastmaster Hunter, you know what? I decided, hey, they're going to give me the single button rotation. Darn it, I'm going to use it. Not that Beastmaster is hard. I've played it a bunch. I kind of know it, whatever. I thought, I'm just going to go with simple. And for the most part, I have stuck with that, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. And you know what? It's been kind of fun. I mean, the leveling is easier, obviously, than more challenging endgame content. So why not lean into that and have a kind of a relaxed time tackling mobs and you know, trying not to get too dead. And hey, because of my probably lower damage and my relaxed mindset, yeah, my poor Dragonhawk dies more often than it should. And luckily, Jibs is there to tell me that my pet is dead. So it all works out. Single button rotation. Enjoying that. One thing that drove me crazy, and I don't have to rant about it because Blizzard has fixed it, was the very terrible decision to make the dynamic flight, the dragon flight, the whatever flight, sky flight. Honestly, what is it again? I totally forgot. I joke about this in my head that there's so many names, and now I've joked so many times that I honestly don't remember what it is. To make that the default flying mode until you got to Pathfinder was, I know I'm treading over probably familiar ground, that was a horrible decision. And, you know, first and foremost has to be the issue of accessibility. That there are people who, and I've heard many people on many different shows and people online and social media talking about how difficult dragon dynamic flying is, and why you would take that away and force, but not take away flying. You're just going to take away the steady flight and force people to do, sorry, I had that backwards, to do the dragon flying, the whatever flying. That was so strange. If nothing else, it goes against like kind of normal incentive, right? Here is the advanced thing. You can't have it until you get to a certain point. You have the basic thing until then. And the basic thing is kind of boring and kind of slow. So you suffer with your steady flight until you get Pathfinder. Like that's the normal brain wiring. That's the normal way to do things. Blizzard went backwards on that, and we have no explanation as to why. And I'm so glad they fixed it. I have definitely, if I've been flying, which actually is rare, and I'll talk about that in a second, it's steady flight. And I was so annoyed. The first time I clicked my button, I'm like, why am I not going anywhere? You know, you kind of hit the space bar to go up on your mount and it just kind of hops. You know, like, wait, what? That was so strange. So thank you, Blizzard, for making that change, switching that around, getting rid of the Pathfinder. I mean, if nothing else, flip it around. But also, I don't know. There's something. There was an outcome of this, right? A lot of people didn't want to do the dynamic flight. Also, the scenery is amazing, and you've heard by now, probably elsewhere, the trend of people hopping on their ground mounts. And that totally happened to me. As soon as I couldn't do steady flight, I was like, I'm out. Whatever. Nope. Grab my ground mounts. Now, again, there's so much cool stuff to see that it actually felt wrong to fly for the most part, at least at first. And then it sounds like, you know, again, here listening to other shows, seeing people's experiences online, it sounds like this sort of retro attitude kind of kicked in for a lot of people. Hey, get on the ground mount and explore this world. Take a look, take your time. And I heard I'm going to kind of reference the conversation that Jason and Spencer had on the Starting Zone recently, where they talked about, well, what if instead of, you know, this argument over dynamic flight, steady flight, whatever, you incentivize the ground mounts, using a ground mount at launch. And maybe there's some sort of buff, maybe there's some sort of benefit that you get if you stay on your ground mount, if you do not fly. And that, you know, hey, we play a game that is all reward. Like, hey, what rewards do you want? What are you willing to do for them? We'd like you to play the game this way, so we'll steer you towards these benefits, these rewards. People always talk about, oh, well, this is the way to play the game because that's where the numbers work out. Well, how about we turn that around and you make the way to play the game getting on your ground mount, at least for that first time. And I liked that. I liked that right from the start, right from, you know, the moment that all of us had of coming out of the Sunwell, out of the intro quest line and going, oh, wow. That is quite a spectacular view when you're coming across that bridge and you see a city that you know what it is, but holy cow, you do not recognize it. And it is huge and it is expansive and amazing and all of these things. And you take that ride across the bridge on your ground mount for the first time because you'll never do it again. Incentivize that. Make that the way to play the game. And so maybe it is some sort of, you know, you're not using rested XP, or you just are eternally in a state of rested XP until you fly, or, you know, something, I don't know if it's literal stats, like you have more haste, you have more power or whatever, or something like that. But I think there's something to this because so many people enjoyed this experience. And hey, let's look at it from Blizzard's point of view. People, they want people in the game. They don't want people going from 80 to 90 in the first, 6 hours that the expansion is out and then complaining there's nothing to do. And yeah, to some extent, you're never going to cure those people. But how about incentivizing ground mounts because of this reason? It is a lot more work. And I think that was something that they mentioned too, of it is really easy to hop on your flying mount, land at the quest giver, ask what you need to do, fly off, drop in on something, kill it, grab it, get the loot, fly away. You're skipping so many things. You're skipping so many parts of the process. And there is something to, up on that hill is the bad guy. But man, there are so many of his minions surrounding this. So I got to slog my way through this. I've got to be, I'm a low-level character because the expansion just came out. I got to be smart about this. I got to really know my one-button rotation. I've got to really know my, what my abilities are, what my limits are. That's playing a game. And for the people who are like, oh, this is boring, if your gameplay is mount, fly, drop in, grab all the quests, mount, fly, drop in, kill the things, mount, fly, like that's not interesting. And sure, that is going to get boring pretty quick. Now, if you incentivize and not require, like Draenor or like some other expansions, incentivize means more ways to play the game. If you're like, you know what, I don't care about the rested XP, or I don't care about your buff that you're going to give me if I don't fly, I want to fly, then fly. You can do it. I think it's a great idea. I think there's something to that, and I would encourage that to be explored going forward. I'll say this. In every zone, until Voidstorm, in every zone, I was on my ground mount, with the rarest of exceptions. And sometimes it was, I gotta be somewhere in 10 minutes, and if I could just get a couple more quests, or I've already explored this area, I'm just gonna kind of cheat over and fly over. Those are my few exceptions. Once we got to Voidstorm, that felt very different. And I guess part of it is the verticality and the openness, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But yeah, for the first, I guess, 4 zones, if you include the Erator quest line, I was 98% ground mount, and I loved it. One totally connected to nothing. I just have a note that says, I love collecting lumber. I do. I don't know what it is. It's just running around doing stuff. Oh, hey, there's the yellow hatchet thing. Or I finally figured out. Remember a couple episodes ago, I complained about what the heck that icon is. I now see it. It looks like a log. I get it. It did not look like a log before. It still kind of doesn't look like a log, but I see it. So yeah, I don't even do anything with the lumber. I'm not building any decor. I'm not crafting. I assume here I'm collecting 2 things right now, as I almost completely ignore housing. By the way, yeah, play the thing. Here's the housing update.
Ready to work.
The briefest of housing updates, because I'm not doing much housing. I collect lumber wherever I see it, because why not? I don't go out of my way unless I'm feeling that vibe. Once in a while I do that. But for the most part, it's just as I'm questing and traveling, hey, there's some lumber, let me get it. And I'm collecting decor. Some days I'm in the game and all I'm doing is hopping in for that decor quest in each of the neighborhoods and then checking a few things and getting out. So I'm vaguely collecting decor. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I don't know what I'm going to do with this lumber, but I love collecting it. And I guess that hit me. I was like, oh, I really am a collector. I really am a gatherer at heart. And yeah, I can't wait to do lumber on my gatherers. My night elf druid has not gotten into to gather yet, so that'll be exciting. I do wish it were paired with a woodworker profession. I do hope that that's something coming. Like, hey, let's get the lumber out there, and then if this housing thing takes off, maybe we work in the woodworker. I'm hoping that's coming. We'll see. One question that everybody had to answer as you dive into an expansion, and especially this one, how do you approach new expansion leveling? As far as not only just zone order, we'll talk about that in a second, but also just campaign questing, lore master, like the Sojourner questing, the local questing, side quests, whatever. How do you go about that? And I remember at the start of Dragonflight, I think Gershom and I talked about this, but thinking, okay, nope, I'm going to do the area and then I'm going to wrap it up and then go on to something else. And I think I might have been like level 76 or something before I left the, Dornegal and whatever, the first zone in War Within. Well, that's not, that's not going to work. This time I decided, you know what? I'm going to try my best to focus. And I'm just going to do the campaign questing. I'm really going to stick to it. And it's true. I'm not sure I've done 10 side quests. I'm just starting to head out to do side quests now, but I'm not sure I did more than... I'd be surprised if it was 10, actually, the whole time. Campaign questing. And you know what? It totally worked. And I'm totally glad that it did. And I do think that fits into the next thing I'm going to mention in just a moment. Before I say that, though, I do want to ask this. What path, what zones did you choose? How did you go through these zones? And I will say, obviously, everybody started with Eversong Wood. Silver Moon into Eversong Wood. And then from there, you had the option of 3 choices. Now, there are basically 5 zones. I'm going to keep kind of asterisking zones, because of Eretor's journey is not literally a zone, but it is a quest line, storyline sort of thing. Which storyline? We'll say that. Which storyline did you go into? Everyone starts in the first one. Then you spread out to 3 different ones. Then you come to the last one because the last one has to be the last one story-wise. This was perfect. This was great. I think that's the way to do it. It is the best compromise between we'd like to tell you a story and we want to offer you choice. And if there were one, I love the Legion expansion so much. There's so many good things about it. But one criticism that I think is fair is, go wherever zone you want. Was kind of weird. It didn't tell the story the way I think they wanted to tell the story. And I could be remembering this wrong, but I thought I heard at some point along the way, Blizzard had an order and wanted to do that order, but then at the, last minute or whatever, but essentially pivoted to say, no, whatever, start in any of the 4 zones. Obviously you had to earn Suramar, but that was later. And I think that was a bit of a miss from a story perspective. It felt like 4 stories as opposed to 1 story with 4 stops. And this felt like the right compromise. Hey, this story needed to start in the Sunwell. Then you needed to go to Silvermoon City to set up shop and to, find the vendors and do the thing. And then you kind of needed to go into Eversong Woods. Like, that's where we are. So you can't skip around. From there, you basically have 3 stories in front of you. And it is, which one do you want to tackle first? Do you want to go left into the troll place? Do you want to go right into the portal that takes you down into the Harndar? Or do you want to go out and hang out with Strange Haircut Boy and investigate the light and the void and all that stuff? All 3 stories kind of happening at the same time. It's not important, the order of them as far as the story goes, because all 3 are going to end up in the same place. And you have to do all 3 to end up in the same place. So this is great. And then you go on, obviously, onto Voidstorm, which is the last part of the story that they want to tell. I thought this worked really well. Well done. So the idea that I said I wanted to come back to was that idea that the campaign was very clear and therefore very accessible. And I honestly, I remember saying this with Gershom, I didn't feel as distracted by the side stories as I did in The War Within. These seem to, I don't know what it was. Maybe it's the physical location of those people who want local quests. Those yellow exclamation points are not crowded into the story, the campaign exclamation points. And so maybe that's it. I don't know. Again, this is another great choice by Blizzard. I don't know exactly how they did it, but it worked. I never felt like I had to go and help Mary Sue clean her house and beat up, 6 walking flowers outside before I could then continue with the campaign. All of that stuff felt appropriately off to the side, and I will come back to it later. And the way I'm choosing to do that is I'm leveling with my, kind of main story character all the way through the 90, all the way through the 5 zones we just talked about, into the end, max level campaign. And then alts are going to come back and they're going to do, kind of zone by zone. They're going to level by doing all the Sojourner and the side questing. Why not? Then I end up with all the stuff done and more characters leveled productively. I do like doing everything on one character. In a different world and probably in a different part of the game, time of the game, I think that's good. But I feel like it's just not efficient anymore. I got to 88 through the story. I had a level and a half, a little more than that. That was not going to get me any sojournering. So everything else I would have done past 90, I'm not getting experience for. So why not bring another character in? I think that makes the most sense. At least to me, it does. It feels more productive to me. So that idea that I had is this. And it hit me as clear as day from 2 things. 1, the way that the campaign questing felt, but 2, talking to Gershom. And it made it really clear to me that, there has to be a rule. And that is, I'm going to call it the solo queue primary principle of content access. And that is this. The content, the campaign content, the story content should be available to every player, regardless of skill level. Even current content. But even if you're kind of bad at this game, and even if your rotation confuddles you, you should be able to progress through every single piece of the story, every bit of story that Blizzard has worked tirelessly on for years to present to you. Everybody paying that sub should be able to get to it. And so there's a couple things there. I'm not great at this game. I'm probably not as bad as I say I am, but I'm really not that great at this game. I love it. I'll play it forever, but I'm, method isn't calling me in off the bench, and that's okay. But even as a low skill player, I should be able to get through everything. And what I felt in this time is that was pretty easy. Yeah, I died a few times. I'm not saying I, just one-shotted everything. There was challenge, but there was challenge that I could get through. And as I said, I can do it using my 1-button rotation. The fact that that's there adds accessibility. And so Blizzard is meeting my primary principle of content access. Hey, we say it all the time. Player base is aging. I'm aging. I know I am. And both limited time or limited physical abilities, visual abilities, whatever it is, if climbing that hill through the minions to kill the boss and bring his head back down to, Khadgar at the base of the hill or whatever it is, if that takes me an hour and a half and I don't get anything else done in that play session, and that's like 3 quests worth, that's not honoring my time, right? That's not a good use of my time, my busy time. If I fly to the top of the hill, one-shot the boss, grab the head, fly back to Khadgar, and it takes me 20 seconds, well, that's not engaging. And so that answer is somewhere in the middle, and I think that Blizzard hit that with Midnight. Yeah, I appreciate the lower skill bar for the story. There are other ways to get challenge in this game. There are other ways. There are other things. People are working towards progressions and slogs and dungeons and progression dungeons and story dungeons and raids and all of those things that are going to tax your abilities. That taxation doesn't come here. It doesn't need to come here in the story. But I would also say this. I wouldn't mind if Blizzard said, okay, let's take the campaign that, at least one guy on a one-man podcast thinks is good, and let's tune it down 10%, make it 10% easier, make it 20% easier, but add heroic world, as we saw in the remix, in the Legion remix. Add that heroic world mode where everything is more difficult. Quests are a little bit more difficult. The mobs hit a little harder, whatever. And now you've offered another way to play the game. Now, that might be a lot. I don't know what goes into just offering that. They may have learned in Legion that that's way too much, or maybe they learned this is possible, but timing's tight. But we may drop this on everyone in the Last Titan. That's possible. And that would be exciting. I think there are things in the game that's starting to feel like these challenge levels and this challenge mode is coming. So we may see that. And I think, again, that's going to be how best can you wring more play styles out of that same amount of content? Again, are you doing twice as much work to make a heroic mode? No. I mean, it's more work, but it's not redesigning everything from scratch. So how can you maximize the number of players that you can entertain and engage with your content? So I hope that idea is coming. That would further push my primary principle of content access. Let's not be afraid of tourist mode, and let's not make it silly easy, but let's not just, kind of toss it out of hand. And of course, here's the corollary to my principle, that if we're going to make all the story content accessible to a player, and a low skill player at that, low skill players are probably not hopping into raids. Okay. And so if you're hopping into story mode because you need the easier way, and again, I say that as someone who does it, you're not giving them all the story. And so once again, #follower raids. Come on. Let's make that happen so that I'm already annoyed. I'll talk about the raid later, but I'm already annoyed that I can't do the whole raid. So that's the next big goal. That should be the next thing they work on, even before the heroic tier, is getting all of the raid content to me as a low skill player who's not going to do group stuff, mostly because of the skill, partly because of the schedule, partly because of the social, whatever. There's a whole slew of reasons that people don't do that. That's the one thing I hope that comes out of what they're learning from all of this and what they can offer. But please, 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 like I said, let me get on that stage at BlizzCon and let me help you announce follower raids. I am there. I will show up with 9 of my favorite NPCs as AI next to me. Wouldn't that be great? You could make them like holograms, and I click the button that says, no, I'll take the lead and I'll announce for you, BlizzCon, #follower raids. And most people won't care because they're probably raiders, but that's okay because some of us will care and it'll be cool. All right, on that note, on that pipe dream fantasy, let's get to our massively main topic. Here we go.
Let's get down to business.
The main topic of this episode is, of course, my feedback, my experience with Midnight, with the content, with this new 11th expansion, the 12.0.1 world that we are living in. I'm going to say this. I'm going to mean it. I'm going to try to be brief and kind of touch on all the parts and march through this. You've listened for 38 episodes. You know how often I'm brief. But where should we start? We should start right from the very beginning. And I promise I'll be brief about this. Early access. You love it, you hate it, you whatever. It does seem that early access is now really access. And the idea that the everybody else access is kind of late access, I think is probably the way to think about it now. It probably is here to stay. It's sort of like, what do you want the government to do to not raise your taxes? And what do you want Blizzard to do to not have to raise your sub? That, I think, is the question. If they can sell a bunch of, mounts and pets and things that you don't need, but people want, great. If I want them, I'll buy them. I have the money. I often don't. I rarely buy that stuff. Charities aside. So great. I feel like those people buying Brutosaurs and those people buying 4 flying squirrels or whatever is going on, that's great. You keep buying those things and I don't have to pay more than what the monthly sub is now. And in this case I do, if I'm willing to buy early access, and frankly, that did not work out for me this time. I played so little in early access, it was kind of a waste. Not literally, because I want that access. But hey, all the people willing to pay more for 3 days of 4 days of playing is money that Blizzard has, and they don't have to raise the sub. So I'm down with that. I get that there's a haves and have-nots or a head start if you can buy it. And I think, they're walking that line of not giving too much away in the first couple days, but they're giving something. And that's, yeah. So I'm okay with that. I get that it's a thing, but yeah. All right. Opening quest lines, opening cinematics, all the hype that was going on. I think all of that stuff worked. The Liadrin cinematic with Lorthamar right out of the start. Amazing. We had the Erator cinematic very early on. If you clicked the right button, we talked about that last time with Gershom. And then it drops you into this battle. It drops you into this battle with the Void in front of the Sunwell with, Xal'atath and everything going on. And that the opening quest line, I think it's good. I think it's good, not great. From the start, there's something fun about getting on the boat or waiting in the thing, grabbing the mysterious images and getting ported off. A little less exciting, but I like the way it essentially kind of turnstiled the traffic as opposed to a boatload of players showing up. It probably dribbed and drabbed it out slightly better from a tech standpoint, from a server load standpoint, maybe, I don't know. But it did give you that sense of, yep, you have arrived at the battle and you are part of the team, but it really is a you. It's not a boatload of yous, it's just a you. You run around, do all the things, get kind of settled into what's going on. I think all of that worked well enough, and it's not so bad upon repeating. I've done it twice now, and other characters I've kind of skipped the opening questing, just heading straight into Silvermoon. I think the fact that various people missed the Erator cinematic is indication of an issue, and I maybe heard that Blizzard is working on fixing that, and that is, how do you know when you're supposed to stay a while and listen? How do you know when you're supposed to click on the cinematic? Everything is, I think you can even be well-intentioned, but everything is in that fog of battle, even in the excitement of a new expansion, you're clicking, there's quest lines, but there's stuff to do and there's a battle going on, and it's not hard to click past something and miss it. And so if you're not looking for it, if it's not in your face, but it's a feature cinematic. I think they want to indicate that better. I think they need to have a better way to point out, this is a stay a while and listen. This is a cinematic. Like, there's got to be something big, not just the little. Let me backtrack. I love all of the little icons they're adding above people's heads. The vendors, the repair people, the anybody who has something to say, and sometimes those dialogue boxes, dialogue bubbles above them are not voice, but just dialogue, like text dialogue. But you have to click every one of those, and there are many. Not all of them have stay a while and listens. And, you know, I think you want to keep going down this road of being clear, of hovering over an NPC and it saying exactly what it's got for you. I have a stay a while and listen. After you do that quest thing, you got to stay a while and listen. Because otherwise, we're in this in-between land of, I clicked on every NPC after every single quest. Like, hey, do you have one now? Hey, do you have something to say now? I just got the tusks for the thing. Do you have something to say now? How about now? like, come on. And then, you know, because as soon as you don't ask, there's going to be one. And so I think it's important that Blizzard keeps working on that, keeps pushing the thing they're doing, and signals those sort of in-game story things better. And again, once again, praise for the option in there of, I don't give a crap about your story, just get me the next quest. I hate that it has to be there, but I'm so glad that they have that option where available, where it can be. There's some things you have to do to keep going. Other times they recognize, yeah, no one wants to hear this. Skip. Am I rating yet? Skip. Good. More play styles, and not all of them are mine, and that's okay. Campaign questing. Let's talk about campaign. I chose, as I said, I love the flexibility. I chose to do Erator's journey second because I wanted to open up the Argentina. I wanted to see what that was about. And, you know, I mean, as much as Eversong Woods naturally does lead into Zulaman, like they are pushing that storyline, Erator's around too. And the Haranir are around too. And so, like I said, all of it could make sense. And it did. I went from there, I went to Zulaman and then over to the Haranir before ending up in the Void Storm. So keep this up. I like this. I like this pacing. I like this flexibility that they gave. And as I said, I like how distinct and clear the path seems. I'll give you an analogy. Here in Maine, there used to be one main road through the state. You know, this is kind of before interstate highway times. And that was Route 1. And Route 1 is very famously a road that goes from the tippity top of Maine, the town of Fort Kent, Maine, where my wife is from, all the way down through the state and literally all the way down to the Florida Keys. It is a long ass road. I forget how many miles, but it goes literally from the Florida Keys all the way to the top of the state of Maine. And when it's in Maine, it passes through every tiny little town on the coast and in and out and this and that. That was the road, though. That was the way. Now we have interstate highways, and you can get to Fort Kent, Maine a lot quicker if you don't go on Route 1. That's for sure. Blizzard is moving towards that interstate, but in a good way. It keeps you, you know, why does the interstate get you there faster? Because it keeps you on the path and it doesn't hammer you with, hey, do you want to turn right here? Do you want to turn left here? Oh, traffic light, options. It takes away most of the options and you stay on track. And I feel like that's what they did better here than they did in Dornegal. Not that it was bad, but this is much better. It's less Route 1. It's more 95, the Maine Turnpike, baby. If you're not from Maine, this doesn't mean much. You should all come to Maine, by the way. Just saying. So my reactions, I just kind of want to wander through each of these zones, give you some highlights, some takes, what I think. And we'll start in Silvermoon and the Sunwell and all of that, like the city. And let's just get it right out there. Of course, this is an amazing rework. It is phenomenal. The city is huge. It is great. It is detailed. It is lively. It has so many little vignettes and little spaces, not just closed doors. Like, oh yeah, these are probably all buildings, probably all spaces, but the doors are locked because, we don't need you in there. So much is open, so many NPCs doing things, and not just vendors and not just useful people, but residents. And that's great. The scale you need for that is bigger than, we'll make a thing big enough to fit all the NPCs we need. Well, where do people live? It's just assumed. It's fine. It's bigger in real life. That's kind of what we get. Silvermoon's this version of Silvermoon is almost one of the first places that I feel like you don't have to make that argument of, it's a game. It would be bigger in real life. Like in a novel, it would be bigger. I feel like you almost don't have to make that argument for Silvermoon. It is massive. The vertical elements, the floating areas, the shooting towers is so lively. I think I mentioned with Gershom, and I want to mention it here just so I can kind of say it out loud, out clear. A part of me is, how do I even say this without sounding like a spoil, I don't know, like a grump. I miss the original elements. I thought I would see, and the thing that I keep coming back to is Murder Row. I thought I would see that sort of hallway kind of, whatever you want to call it, of Murder Row in the OG Silvermoon. I'd go there and be like, oh yeah, this is Murder Row. And yeah, they up-resed it. And yeah, they, cool new models and new details and new stuff going on. But I remember walking here. And that doesn't exist. There is none, as far as I can tell, there is none of the original footprint of Silvermoon, of Burning Crusade era Silvermoon. And I thought there would at least be some on that eastern side. That was intact. Like that part of the city was intact. The other part, of course, got, railroaded by Arthas, destroyed. Sure, build that from scratch, no doubt. Do I love it? Yes. It really is amazing. But I have that nostalgia thing that I can't leave behind. I can't. There's one more thing that, and again, I hate to say these things, and I think part of it is I just was so connected to Eversong Woods and to Silvermoon. The music in those two places doesn't do it for me. I've tried, I've listened. I quickly get annoyed by the music in Silvermoon for two reasons. One, it just doesn't seem quite right. It doesn't carry enough from the previous. It doesn't have enough callbacks. I know it's going to be updated. I know the tone, the vibe is different so many years later in game with so much building and so much improvement, all that stuff. I get it, it has to be. I don't hear enough of the old to make enough connection. And there's one other thing that annoys me almost more as a podcaster. I hate to admit this is a little weird, especially in Silvermoon. And I think the other places it's not as much. The way they've played the music, there is a considerable gap in between like the next bit of music, 30 seconds, 45, 90, I forget, I think it may depend, but essentially they have these snippets that they play and then the music fades and the next one comes in. That's how a lot of WoW music is built. In Silvermoon now, there is a considerable gap in between. which, again, in-game, it's fine. You have music, then you don't for a bit. Do you notice? Maybe, maybe not. What are you complaining about? You don't like the music anyways, what you're thinking. I get it, I know. But if I want to use it on the podcast, I mean, I either want backing music or I don't. And so it's weird if all of a sudden I'm talking and then 30 seconds goes by this blank. And you're like, where'd the music go? It makes me seem like what's he even doing? And I haven't decided what to do about that yet. Part of me wants to manually just go through and cut all that, smush it together so I have a continuous track. We'll see. I do music after I record the talky bits, so I don't know what's going to happen yet. You'll find out. You might already know based on what you're hearing in the background. Of course, I went in and smushed all the audio together. Of course I did. Okay, enough of Silver Moon. On to the first questing area, Eversong Woods. Eversong Woods, of course, used to be 2 zones. It used to be Eversong Woods, and it used to include the area of the Ghostlands. And I have notes from the first time I played through in the first early sessions, and my reactions were kind of similar to Silver Moon. It's so different. It's so, I don't know. I had a hard time putting my fingers on it. And I wonder if other people felt this way, or it really is just me being a little bit crazy. It too didn't feel recognizable enough. I'm like, I don't know where I am. This isn't Eversong Woods. I know the trees are going to be, 20, 30, whatever years bigger. And I know things will have changed and they've fixed things. But it didn't feel like, when was it so closed in? When is it so forested? Why is it so hilly? Why is it this? Why is it that? I felt like, no, they clearly didn't use the same footprint. In my mind, you're like, okay, let's revamp this zone. Okay, take off all of the tree clutter and whatever and keep the same topography, but let's put nicer buildings and make the trees a little bigger and whatever you're going to do to the zone. And I thought there's no way they did that. And I feel like, yep, it's painted in a similar palette. It's got similar brushes, but it's a new scene. It's not just updated. It's not just, yep, we up-res the trees and everything. And again, the music here, boy, I want it to have more TBC in it. And the Ghostlands, so iconic. I miss it. I guess I miss it. Who wants we want the land to stay crappy? No. So what's this guy complaining about? I shouldn't complain. I hate sometimes when I see something and then I can't get it out of my head, and I feel like it influences my thinking about it. And I saw early on a comment on the YouTubes on the music, one of the musics. I guess it had to be for Eversong Woods. And somebody said it lacks that buzz. It lacks that droning sound. I forget exactly how they worded it, but that just stuck in my head, and I'm like, they're right. There is a droniness. It's the lament, and I get it. It's the lament of the Cinderai, and it's sad, and it's what have you, but there's a texture to that is almost completely gone in the Eversong now. And yeah, I think that got in my head. And does it get in the way of my enjoyment of that music? Yeah, maybe a little bit. And maybe I'm overthinking it. And maybe the answer is, hey, the mood has changed. You got to get over it. It's a different thing. These people are happier now. Their lives are better. Their zone is better. Come on. And these were my early reactions. And then a funny thing happened. I knew I should give these things time because, again, I I think everything they've done is just amazing from an out-of-the-box point of view. It's amazing. But here I am kind of trying to pull back to the old stuff. The music, I haven't quite come around on. It still isn't quite doing it for me. It seems a little bit generic. It seems a little bit like it lacks the character, and maybe it's not the same character, but it doesn't seem, in my head, it doesn't yet have its own character that just screams new blood elves, or, you know, less sad blood elves, or whatever we're going to call them now. Where, spoilers, in the other zones, I'm getting ahead, Harandar and Zulaman, the music does work for me. I like it. So it's not just me being an out-of-the-box kind of dink about things. But as I said, a funny thing did happen. The more I have played in Eversong Woods, the more I have fallen in love with the zone graphically. And the more I do feel like, this is the original zone. It took a little time, but it also took me doing something that's just silly. I decided, like I said, I would take one of my starter account characters and run them through. It's from scratch, level 1, brand new blood elf on Sunstrider Isle, doing the quests, beating up the lynxes and grabbing the mana worms, the whole 9 yards. And I took that character all the way to level 10, level 11. I was testing some other stuff out that I'm not going to tell you about quite yet. But there was a reason I was testing it there. I wanted to play through those zones. Not one last time. I'm sure I'll do it again. In fact, I think I realized the beauty of my starter account is this. I can go start characters in the starting zones that I love, and then they get to whatever, 10, 20, and they sit there. And that's great, because I love those starting zones. But I did that. And, of course, it felt, oh, yeah, it's great. Oh, yeah, let's do 1 or 2 quests in the Ghostlands just to get in there. And the testing was successful. I'll talk about that next episode, I believe. But more importantly, I reestablished that sense of the zone. And you know what? When I was there, I was like, when did this zone get so full of trees? When did it get so hilly? When did it, even the nostalgia I have was a little bit off. And it's not like I haven't been there since Burning Crusade. Heck, I didn't even play in Burning Crusade, and I go to these zones kind of on the regular, but I don't know, my bad memory or whatever it is, I got in there and I'm like, oh,
You're just embarrassing yourself.
this is the same place. The trees are just a bit, 10% bigger, but it was always this full of trees. It was this forested. It's Eversong Woods, for God's sakes. I guess I kind of forget what the W is for.
You're doing it wrong.
And so in the new zone, hey, when you get near Windrunner Spire, there is hints of the Ghostlands. The color palette does change to that bluish greenish, not as hard as the Ghostlands goes, but it's there. And the music does change enough to bring you, I guess that's still kind of a rough place as far as, rough area as far as the revamp goes. There's a lot of stuff over there in Windrunner Spire, a lot of history and a lot of sadness and what have you. So that seems appropriate. So, I'm lamenting the, the old zones, and I will go back to them and visit. But I'm giving Eversong eventually my stamp of approval, and I am enjoying flying around. And now that I've quested through the zones and doing world quests and stuff, I'm no longer doing the ground mount only. I am flying. Now that I've learned the places, done the things, I feel like that earns you the flying in my mind. So Eversong Woods. Yeah. Hey. Oh, okay. I came up with a joke that I meant to tell Gershom, and whatever, we got going so many directions and my notes kind of go out the window. But I want to tell the joke, and she's gotta listen. Everyone can listen because, hey, here's the joke. It's based on my questing in this area. Why did Halderon Brightwing find it difficult to be upset with the Amani trolls that chopped the big tree down in Eversong Woods? They seemed like good fellers. There you go. There was, it just hit me when I was questing through here. Saw some Amanis doing a thing. I think I was doing a world quest or something. And I was like, oh, I don't want to go there. I have to fight those guys. Wait, who are those guys? Amani fellers? It just made me laugh. And thus, this wonderful joke was born. So there you go, Gershom. Sorry, a couple weeks late and not in person, but I was going to tell you that joke. Next up in my journey was Erator's journey. That was the second place that I went. And I thought it was interesting that the quest line brought us to Light's Hope Chapel, and no doubt, hey, there's a contrast of big, beautiful, updated lands, and then let's drop you into the Plague Lands. That was pretty phenomenal just to see like, oh yeah, this is what we used to live in. I thought it was interesting that all the players are going to get a chance, which I guess you can anyway, but take you to Light's Hope Chapel. You get the tour of the famous paladins. You get a little bit of that story in there. And, hey, if you weren't a paladin in Legion Order Hall, there's a fair chance you haven't gone and done that. So I like that it's kind of spreading out some of the lore that is in game, but your character might not be exposed to it. You might not be exposed to it. I wasn't a huge fan of the whininess of Erator. And, I don't know. I mentioned this in the solo queue Discord that, that day I was like, I have had way too many drinks this afternoon to babysit Erator as he discovers that life is not just about smiting his enemies. There's more to the world. The whining of the younger generations is literally my day job, and I do not need this in my escape from my day job. So, I go back and forth on Erator and his vibe and how they've written him. I do feel like he didn't quite have that kind of goofiness, flightiness, whatever, whininess in the book. And so coming out of the book, Blood Ties, that seems like he backtracked, at least in some maturity. And, I don't know. There's a lot going on. And so I'm not super critical, but I remember just like, oh, come on, dude. Come on. Pull it together. We've got questing to do. We've got stuff to do. Can you get over yourself a little bit? And maybe that is part of it might be, the greeting lines and the goodbye lines. I'm forgetting what that, when you click on an NPC and they say, they have like 5 lines they can do. Same thing when you release them. Maybe some of those got tiring. Maybe that's it. And maybe it's not necessarily just the story, but some of that stuff piling up. I don't know. I enjoyed the kind of the bits of information we get from Alonsis Fowl. Him telling us that the light is bigger than the believer. It's not just about your belief. And that's kind of interesting because you have a Turalian, which I think he has reverence for the light, but he also seems to have that belief that, well, I'm a paladin and I'm pure of heart and I believe the hardest and therefore the light, blah, 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 blah. And Fowl saying, it's really not the believer. It's the light is the bigger thing. The light doesn't necessarily see evil. It's what you do with the light. So I don't know. I mean, all these different opinions on what the light's doing and can you go overboard with the light and yeah. So all these different opinions about that. Speaking of the goodbye dialogue, I just happened to notice I realized, oh my God, the worst goodbye dialogue that anybody has is Anduin. And it's when he goodbyes you with, "I hear a radiant song." And it's so weird. Like, the tone is weird. And even how is that a goodbye? Like, "Hey, thanks, Anduin. Good luck holding up the sun well. Really appreciate your efforts. I hear a radiant song." What? Okay. See you next time.
I hear a radiant song.
Let's head to my third zone, and that was Zul'Aman. There was a moment, before I get into it, there was a moment when the troll tribes assemble under Zuljara, and Liadrin asks if you can help the Loa. And I literally said out loud, "Hey, yeah, what about the Loa?" And the very next quest box dialogue mentioned something, I think it was very chastising. It said, "You do not know about us and the Loa." And it was very like, "Oh, yep, not my place." Like, "Yeah, what about your Loa? Come on, let's nope, put you in your place." It was very funny. It's less funny at me telling it now, but there you go. Other thoughts randomly. Lilaju, I forget how they pronounced her name. The little, very young leader of the Revan Tusk tribe.
The Ravan Tusk welcome you.
Is she the Lady Mormont of the troll world from Game of Thrones? Because she was sassy and strong and took no crap. She was great.
I may be small, but I also be crazy.
She got her job as the leader of the Revan Tusks after the Twilight's Blade killed her father and her grandfather. Yeah, that was, I really liked that character. She was fantastic. And yeah, it gave me Lady Mormont vibes, but I loved Lady Mormont too, so I got no problem with that. I loved Halazi, the Loa of the Hunt, being a feral druid at heart.
What would you ask the Loa of the Hunt?
Halazi was fantastic. That was my favorite of the Loas. I love that we go on a tour of the Loa. I love that we're getting story. That we're getting it in a way that is part of the game, and I think that's great. And as I mentioned to Gershom on the show, how about that landmass east of Zul'Aman, apparently called Atal Utek? Atal Utek, the landmass. Clearly, we're going there soon. Maybe next. But yeah, you cannot fly there. It will boot you back. So I'm excited about that. Zul'Aman as a zone. Fantastic. You start out in what feels like a little playground of I think it's just the map of the previous dungeon/raid. It's been both, right? Do I remember that correctly? And I remember thinking, oh, okay, well, this is, something going on here. Yeah, well, run around, do some things. And then as you progress through that area into the new area, another one of those moments of, oh, wow, this is really cool. Oh, this is really great. The zone's fantastic. It's big. It's got some different areas. It's got some different troll areas, different things going on. I want to get back there. I'm looking forward to getting back there. It now seems like forever ago when I did campaign there. So I'm looking forward to the Sojourner side questing and getting to know that zone. But I really like the detail and the vibe and the music. Lots of good stuff there. This is when I came across my first follower dungeon, I believe. I think this is the first one I did, and that was Den of Nal'Rok. And, each of them, the first two took a half hour. And they were, not fast. They did drop a little loot. I thought they were smooth. I thought it could have been a little bit faster. I did it's a follower dungeon. I let them lead the way because I don't know where I'm going. So, yeah, probably would have been a little bit faster if I had done it myself, but then I wouldn't really know what I'm doing. So it probably would even out. But I enjoyed the dungeon for what it was worth. I have a note here that said, yep, still doing ground mounts, although I did fly up somewhere to go get a treasure. This is, treasure, a pie, a rare something, whatever. Hopped on the flying mount, went up there just to get that. And then, I basically have a button for mounting, and it's on my mouse, and so I can click the button, or I can click a number on my keyboard, and it's, whatever mount I'm using. And so I'm ground mounting, and you might see where this is going. And I clicked the button and then walked off the tall thing I had just flown up on and died immediately. Well, not immediately. I fell for a while and then died. So the ground mounting by default does have its downsides every now and then when you scale something tall and you forget that your default mount button is not gonna safely return you to Earth. Yep. Oops. Zul'Jara is such a badass. I really loved this quest line. I loved her story. I love the position she's in with, she's in charge, not her brother. And her brother is off doing, running wild and doing stuff. And she's trying to lead, but trying to keep him in check and all this stuff. And I really love the role that Liadrin plays, unwilling at the beginning, and all of a sudden you just slowly, this bond. I felt like the bond formed between the three of us because the way that story was written. You two are the assistants, the Hashi. Do I have that right? I forget exactly, but that role of helping her become prepared. She's the Hashi. I don't know. I didn't take notes on that, so I'm sorry. But helping her get prepared for these trials and to prove that she's ready to be the leader. I still feel like, oh man, that was such a great group, the three of us, Liadrin, Zul'Jara, and my blood elf, my random blood elf hunter, who's, used to not like you people, kind of in the same boat as Liadrin. Both of us blood elves from across those hills who used to be the enemy, and now we have come together and we're seeing things differently, and I liked it a lot. I thought it was pretty smooth. And then on the other side of that, you have her brother, Zul'Jan. And I really loved, there's a particular stay a while and listen with Zul'Jan that is heavy and full of detail from his perspective. And I find it very interesting. The idea of him trying to find his role, feeling slighted, feeling like he's got to make up for it, or he's going to be the hero. He knows what to do. He's going to take action. A great counterpoint to Zul'Jara, and makes for a good story. So, yeah. From there, it was time to head into Harandar. And I loved when we first get there. I think I even wrote, I did. I wrote down the quote from them. And you finish a quest and you're turning it in, and the greeting quest box says, "Outsiders are not permitted in Harandar. Orwena has broken our most sacred of laws. You are not welcome here, stranger. Choose your reward. One of these 2 capes and 32 gold." Wait, what? It's a Haranir named Rua, who is like, what? Hey, make sure you offer them one of these 2 nice capes and some money before you punish them for showing up here as outsiders. What? Sometimes the whole quest reward mechanism for driving a story is a little bit strange. It really, if you think too much about it, you have to not think about it. But every now and then you're like, what? That doesn't make any sense. You're not welcome here. Which cape would you like? Do you need haste or do you need crit? I will say this right off the bat. Harandar for all the scuttlebutt rumors, what have you, is that, ooh, it was supposed to be in the War Within, and then things changed, and they scrapped it, and they moved it, and whatever. I liked it. I think it fits this story just fine. I don't mind that it was delayed. I think it is less jarring than a pivot to Undermine, frankly, in terms of story. Not that I minded that pivot, but it definitely was jarring. I don't mind getting Harandar now. I think the connection with the light blooms and the stuff going on in Eversong and the connection to that down in Harandar, I don't think it was forced. I thought it was good. I don't mind it. I'm not, I don't know what everyone's complaining about. The people who are complaining, I don't really want to research it because I don't really care. I am enjoying it, and therefore I'm enjoying it. And I like that. The zone seems great, and with one exception, and I think I need more time, but the center area, I forget what it's called, the root town, root to, I have no idea what it's called. I'm not looking at the map, but that central area, I can't make heads or tails of it yet. I don't understand, at least on a ground mount. And again, I was trying to, be a good ground mounter. I don't know my way around it. I don't know how to get into the entrance, from the entrance to where the kind of the quest givers were, which is kind of by the flight point, but from the east side. How do you get there? I ended up getting close, and then I would fly in because I could not figure it out. That's not great. I feel like I should have figured it out by now. Maybe, again, getting in and questing more, it will make more sense. It probably will. But it was hard to envision. Like, I couldn't see it, at least from the map, and therefore it was hard for me to navigate. That's the exception, because the rest of the zone, I really did like how it was laid out, and I did it all on the ground mount. And I also liked, when I first left, when I had to go find the Den of Echoes, I don't know if they planned it this way. I don't know if maybe I'm missing something, missed a direction, whatever it was. It's a thing on my map. Hey, go there. And the path wasn't obvious. I didn't know which roads to take. I had unexplored territory, so I'm not looking at the map. And I ended up wandering all over the place to get out there. And I loved it. It was great. Even, I'm not saying overland and I had to fight every mob I could find. No, I was sticking to the roads, but the roads aren't, they're pretty organic. They're not the interstate idea that we're talking about earlier. We have a saying in Maine, you can't get there from here. That idea that, that town's like 20 miles that way, but you got to go 10 miles north and then 4 miles east and then kind of swing around there. Like, there's no straight road. Harandar is like underground Maine. You can't get there from here. You've got to loop around here and go by Big Jim's place and then swing over here. There's a lot of that, and I loved it. And again, not flying. If I was flying, I'd have been there in literally 10 seconds. But I'm not. And so I'm immersed, and I'm loving it. The immersion. There we go. This immersion, this campaign quest was very immersive. And thank you, Blizzard, for that. I love it. There was a stay a while and listen that something kind of hit me. It was with Orwena and Amarok. And if I remember, Amarok was the guy who kind of shed his connection to the whatever, the Radiant Song. I fear a Radiant Song. You can't hear the goddess anymore, or whatever they're referring to the Radiant Song as. He cut that off. And I remember first, from a gameplay standpoint, I remember thinking, I wish I could click the stay a while and listen again and watch it again, listen to it again. And I feel like some that you can, but that one you couldn't. And I started noticing, no, I don't think you can on the others too. I don't know if that's hit or miss. I don't know if I'm misremembering, but why not be able to click it a second time? It's almost like, okay, you clicked that, now you've moved forward. The character, the NPC has progressed to the next state, and that is back to their state of, here's my generic dialogue when you click on me. Not, here's my dialogue, but I have stay a while. Because those are tied to a moment in the story. I get that. And that must be super hard tech to figure out. You know, you have the same character who, in the course of, 1-2 quest lines, in the course of 10-15 different quests, they may have 3 stay a while and listens. But those can only be good. They don't pile up. You don't just have 6 of them to sift through. They're in the moment. They're in a place. They're at a moment in the story, and they have to disappear. It's just too bad that that it is so immediate. Like, you clicked it once, you're done. Like, maybe that could reset. I don't know. I don't even want to pretend to know how that works and what that change would be to enable it to be clickable again. But I would like that. That would be nice. Like, oh, that was so good, I wanted to hear it again. From a story point of view, the thing that struck me with this conversation, the idea that he said to Orwena, you practice your faith by listening, meaning listening to the radiant song and listening to the goddess. You practice your faith by listening. I must practice mine by remembering. Super interesting. He doesn't have the goddess's voice. He doesn't have the radiant song in his head. And he's waiting to decipher or waiting for that call or waiting to hear. He doesn't hear it anymore. But he still has his faith, because I think she makes a statement about, oh, it's too bad you lost your faith. And he says, no, I didn't lose my faith. I cut my connection. I didn't lose my faith. I still have faith. And that's where he says, you have the sound. You have the voice. You practice your faith by listening to the voice. I practice mine by remembering, thinking back to what that voice was saying. And I thought that was a really interesting commentary and perspective on faith and on belief. Like, what is your faith? Is it, in some ways his is grounded in this memory, and is I say grounded because it's almost now going to be unchanging. Whereas she is listening, and maybe that's more real because she's hearing something, but she's like trying to decipher, trying to feel the will, or I don't know. I don't know that there's any one right way. I just thought it was super interesting to have those different ways of thinking about faith. The last thing I'll say is I loved the Rutani race when are Rutani a playable race. They are fantastic. I love the vibe. I love the voice lines. I love all of it. Rutani, I want to play them now. Please do that. Finishing up Harandar, of course, we get to head to the Voidstorm. The Voidstorm. Kind of an interesting place. Seems a little bit manufactured for the story, I guess, if I had to kind of think about it, where the other zones feel like places on this earth, literally Azeroth. This feels a little like, oh, we need a zone to house a thing to do the thing, and it's going to be a circle, and it's going to be, in the middle of nothing. And I don't know, it feels a little, I guess, contrived. The zone itself, I am liking it. It kind of has that Maw feeling to it, but less dangerous. And it even had I feel like some of the Maw style assets to it. But I liked it. I very quickly suspended my no flying rule. Partly for speed, partly I guess I was I'm getting close to the end of the story questing. I guess I was getting a little antsy there. I also know that, especially those days, my playtime was just so limited, and there's I just want to kind of get there. And partly, it's so very open. Like literally, we're not hemmed in by trees. I could see where I'm going. And so I felt like, oh, that's okay. And partly, I guess this is 4 parts, there's a lot of verticality there. And some of it was just like, I need to get over to that. Everyone else is flying. Hey, let's go to this area to deactivate the thing and beat up some stuff and do the things. Okay, ready, team? Yes. And the NPCs, Ilaria and whoever else I'm with, they're hopping on their flying mounts. I'm like, oh, that's okay, guys. I'll walk. Like, nah, that felt lame. That was like middle school all over again. So no. Hopped on the flying mount. I haven't fully explored the zone. The story questing doesn't take you to the entire zone, at least not the leveling campaign. I love that there are 2 cinematics, or kind of early, or maybe not early, but in the storytelling. The first one is relatively brief, but it tells us a lot. It shows us about Saladar turning, and also how Ilaria took in the Dark Naru power. I don't know that it's new information. I think, both of those things are things we knew, and maybe we've even seen before. I'm not sure. I guess I don't remember. There's some plenty of blind spots in my lore knowledge, but a great inclusion in the story. As we're moving through the story, give us that backstory in those ways. And there is a second cinematic. I don't know if this is slightly spoilers, but in the Void Storm, it does show Ilaria what that Naru power does and what she, essentially we've been hinting at this forever. Ooh, Ilaria's got to go off and be alone. Ooh, Ilaria doesn't like to stick around. She's hiding something, and I think we see that this is what she's hiding. I love the character of Decimus as the unwilling kind of partner to all this, the Dominar that you take over and eventually kind of, release. Lothraxion, who is a character I never got super close to. Some people seem to have a thing kind of coming over from Legion about him. He goes kind of full zealot. And kind of goes really in parallel with Turalian to some extent, although it seems like Turalian may have found an off-ramp. Thraxian kind of goes hard in the light, and not gonna lie, he was as annoying as zealots tend to be. There was a moment, and I have a note on this, I wish I could remember the context, but Erator tells a joke. And it's something to do with, hey, we Windrunners got to go do this thing. And Erator jokes, no Windrunner ever did something because of external forces. And I laughed out loud. And if people didn't get that was a joke about Sylvanas being dominated and forced to do things and what have you, yeah, that was a very light, very funny. That's the witty Erator that I want. That's the clever Erator of the book. He wasn't whining about all this stuff again, and so that's what I mean by he bounces around a bit more. I guess I have good days and bad days too, so maybe it's very realistic. Void Storm, I liked it. I can't wait to get back there to see more of it. I guess I'll skip ahead for a moment to the level 90 campaign. So once you're max level, you do some stuff, you return to Void Storm. I have returned. It is a long campaign. There's like 5 quest lines I noticed, and I have done 1. I'm in the second one. But still, I need to get back in and do more of that. Okay, follower dungeons. I've done 2. 3. I've done 3. Both of the first 2 were, like I said, 30 minutes. I was by far the low end of the DPS. I was well below the other followers, the AI followers. Den of Nalrock, and I honestly don't remember the other one was. both of them felt very much part of the story. So if you give me a quest to go do the dungeon, I hope it fits. And I noticed they don't do that to all of them, at least not in the campaign. I'm sure the side questing is going to take me to a lot of other places, but both of them fit right in. I guess the other one was in the troll area, maybe. Both of them fit right in, and I felt like it told the story well. I did a third one, except I was level 88 by then, and I was total opposite. I was the top DPS by a long shot. So it was interesting that I definitely ramped up while the followers probably didn't advance as much, which I thought was interesting. That was an interesting way to scale that. They didn't necessarily scale. I got better. I didn't scale. I just am so much better than I was 8 levels ago. Delves, I gotta say, as I record this, it's this part of the show. It was reset day today. I am so bummed that last week was Delve week because I didn't do a single Delve. I was like, oh, Delves week, great. I'm going to get in there. And no, I didn't do a single one. And it's at this point I'm feeling like, oh man, I hate to say this. My time in game playing is really getting pinched by not just real life, but also my time in game in service of this podcast. And added to that, the time it takes to make the podcast. My free time is what it is. And now I'm chopping it up, and it is gameplay that's missing out. And that's a bummer. And so, yeah, getting to 90 took longer than I wanted. I'm not as far into the story as I kind of want to be. I did a couple delves in the leveling, but I haven't had a chance to get back. And that's bumming me out a little bit. Now, I guess the bright side is, hey, if I can crank out this editing tonight and get this episode 2 tonight, hey, I got a couple weeks before I got to start ramping back into this. And I even know, I think, what the next episode is going to be. So hopefully I can get into game and really kind of dive in, because I'm loving what is here. And I guess this is a good space to kind of switch over to those final thoughts. I'm loving what's here. I'm liking the story. I am loving the depth that different things are getting. Trolls are getting story and lore and progression, and taking them, whether you like the story or not, that's a fair question. But there's more coming, and that's really nice. The Haranir. I remember somebody complaining, the Haranir they don't really have much. There's not much history. They feel like they're just there to whatever. They've just been introduced. We met Orwena and her band of whatever, briefly in the War Within. Too briefly, but whatever. But here we get their zone. We go to their place. We meet their people. We see, we see who they're interacting with, the Rouhani and the others, and what's going on. Okay, yeah, I don't have their 10,000 years of history yet. Can that come? Can we be patient? It will get there. Yeah, they don't appear in every novel that we've had for 20 going on 30 years of Warcraft. That's okay. Like, new things have to be new things. And they, if they dropped a novel's worth of Haranir history into the game with 50 stay a while and listens and 86, books to pick up off a table and read, and it's got 20 different little clickable chapters. No one's reading all that. No one's doing all that. And then everyone would complain. You'd be like, oh, well, the story's there. Ooh, moderation and optimism. Moderation and optimism. I like the Haranir as an addition. That said, I want to play the Rouhani. I like the Rouhani a lot. I like my Haranir druid, and I'm looking forward to getting her into one of the Sojourner areas. I'm excited that they're going to bring a new icon in for the Stay a While and Listens. I think they've heard feedback, and they've heard feedback on a good system, and they're improving it. That's great. I'm almost bummed that I'm kind of done the story, but I have so many side quests to do, and that's exciting. I'm looking forward. That's almost like a whole new world to go and do all of that. And I've heard some of it's really good, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to getting to the other dungeons to get their stories. Looking forward to doing more delves, but I'm not going to get 25% more, more delve experience, companion experience by doing it. That's just bumming me out. The last item is the raid. So the raid, Voidstorm, Voidspire is the raid that is in the max level campaign, and it does have I should air quote story mode. It does have a story mode. It just literally, it feels like it drops you in the middle of a conversation. Like you just walked in the room and everyone was already talking. You're like, oh, what are we talking about? It's not a story. I would be less annoyed with story mode if it were just called one boss mode. Don't even pretend that it's story mode. Please, 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 please. Please, 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 can we have follower raids? And I can see the 5 bosses that came before the Crown of the Cosmos, that final boss of the Voidspire raid. So I got in the follower raid, and I gotta say, there's an awful lot of mechanics for the story mode. You're not good at the game, let's just go easy on you. I thought it was too long, and then all of a sudden there's stuff going on and mechanics, and I died to mechanics. I get sucked into the center of the thing and something and whatever, and then I died. And then I think I had to go feed the dog or something, and I got pulled away, and literally by the time I got back to my computer, I had been scurried back to wherever, Voidspire, and maybe even logged out. I don't remember. I haven't been back there since. I haven't gone back to the raid. So I haven't completed the follower, wishful thinking. I haven't completed the story mode raid. That's where I am in the progression. So I haven't seen the other bosses. I'm curious what, I hopefully I will someday know. But the one boss I did see, wow, that's crazy. I don't want, there's some spoilers, but I mean, can you actually believe that the Crown of the Cosmos is really just... It's people. The crown of the cosmos is people.